So it is about scaling into swing positions over a couple of days. When a trade or a day trade, for example, with 0.25% risk of the capital, how can you calculate that for a swing trade when you don't know how long you will stay in the swing trade?
I handle it so that if I go into the trade, normally I know if it's a swing or a day trade. And the risk I took is the risk for the day trade normally. And if I change, yeah, I let the risk.
Yeah, and I think regarding margin, at least on Interactive Brokers, you don't get margin problems. So it doesn't matter how long the position is open.
Yeah. Sure, yeah.
And then the second part is, and how much consideration space do you give for your stop loss pending data, central bank, possible Trump tariff events? Thanks in advance. So this, yeah.
Yeah, for me, I often go out of the market before the data because it's so unberechenbar.
It's not calculatable.
Yeah.
So, and what do you do when the swing trade is far in profits? Do you exit before
Yes.
fundamental data most of the time? Yeah.
And after the data, I decide if I make a new trade or not.
Yeah.
If nothing happened, I go in second time. Yeah.
So, Lee Thompson, that should be the answer to the first question that was provided there. Now we have Konstantin with a couple of pictures. So I will open them in the browser and then share them. So first picture, footprint picture, this picture. So let us start with let's open the chat. Perfect. A couple more people joining. So let me share my screen so you can we all know the pictures we are talking about. So this was the first picture, and the question to that picture was, in this example, there was a first long entry when there was a break in back to the range. So when we had a break, let me take the pen. So the first entry, while we broke back into the range, most likely I think the blue one is looks like an old business zone. So there was a break in. After that, there was defined a new border to the bottom. I don't know what exactly you mean with the new border to the bottom, most likely the bottom of the P. Is it possible to create a new long position when the price closes above the new border? I think it's above this high.
Here it's a little bit difficult because you have no pullback. It goes on fast. I think I wouldn't trade it.
But yes, if you have the setup, you can enter there, but it's not a beautiful one.
Yeah.
And in combination with this, as we know from Serge or Tom, they prefer to check the order book and footprint as well as further confirmation if there's still interest to trade. Because just depending on structure and breakout candles like this, it's more difficult to scale in. So, does the stop loss make sense, or would it be better below the wick? So he placed the stop loss over here. This is his stop loss, and this is like the low over there and over there.
I like the little bit bigger stop loss because I take the bigger stop loss under the candles.
Yeah, same for me. It's just the personal preferred way. You have less stop outs, you have a little bit more room for the market to vary. So why is a setup? Open the Discord. So is it reasonable to place a stop loss when shown in the screenshot, or would it be better to place it below the wick? We just answered that. Do you see any possibility of joining the downward movement? So this question was, remove the pen, switch to the mouse. So this question was regarding the footprint, how to join the downward movement. So in general, I think Patrick is not using the footprint.
Not so much, no.
Mainly Serge, Tomek using them, but I also had a chat about Serge with it. Either he wants to answer it himself or I can answer it. But then I will take care of it. So it's just about, in this case, we have the high volume areas are in a downtrend. So you see, although you have the individual candles, you see that the high volume areas of each candle is moving downwards. So in general, you're in downtrend and you have sideways, but you have the first signs of accumulation below the sideways, like below the accumulation. You have finished auctions on the top, you have unfinished auctions on the bottom, and in general, you have interest to trade lower and lower. So that's the first indication of scaling into a downtrend. And if you want to scale in, one option would be just to get in on a pullback on a high volume zone that you already marked out in yellow in this case in the screenshot. So that way you could scale into a short in that downtrend based on the footprint and the accumulation in there. Then there has been a couple more questions to the next screenshot. By the way, I think it's the best to explain things with screenshots. Just increase the size a little bit. So it is another P. And the question is, check. We'll check for it in English. We already had a little discussion regarding this case in Discord. Even without two higher closes, it's a setup, although it's not the best one. Can you give more detail and explain why this is a valid setup? So this question is directed to me. As I'm here, I will quickly answer it. So when you have an uptrend and you have two lower closes and you close above the two lower closes, then you already can trade the pullback on that. It's a very aggressive entry into a strong uptrend. It's kind of the shortest accumulation that you can have. Although the rule-based or perfect setup is when you have two lower closes, and inside the range of those two lower closes, you also have two higher closes. The upper boundary of the range passes through the close of the candle 1. So the upper boundary of the candle, the upper boundary of the range passes through the close of candle 1. So with candle 1, maybe, most likely will be in here. I can take you on stage and specify the question. Let me check for Zoom. People was from Konstantin, hopefully with the real name in here. Yeah, seems so. If you can unmute yourself, should be possible. Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, perfect. Here I just trying to follow the logic behind the P shape. So let me check if I can draw. We can see that upper boundary goes through the close of the candle 1. After this, we have two lower closes. So yes, that defines the upper boundary. As for the lower boundary, it's a little different because difficult because after the closure of candle 3, we have equal closure,
Yeah,
which
with a gap.
technically
First,
which
with
is
a gap up, then close down.
yeah, but it's not upper closure, right? It's equal closure. But
Yeah.
in the definition, we should have upper closure. And closure of candle 5, it's the first upper closure, and technically
It's on the same level.
it kind of yes, kind of not give us the real bottom boundary definition.
So we had this already a couple of times in the last live streams, and the solution is just it's not a beautiful setup. Of course, you can trade it, but you don't need to force the setups. And if you have closes on the same time, and furthermore, you have gaps in the other setups. I mean, in this case, it's just one gap, but it's a 5-minute time frame. It's not the best. Just wait for a more beautiful one, but otherwise, you can trade it like this.
Okay.
Was that the question was answered that way?
Yeah. I just always have this confusion if I can trade this setup or not. Now you answered that it's not the beautiful one, but still we can work if you want.
Okay, so perfect.
Yeah, I think we can go to the next question. Next picture. Yeah.
With the next one. Serge, wir können ja gerne nachher drüber reden, aber jetzt während dem Livestream.
Nee, ich wollte fragen, ich glaube, der wollte was anderes fragen.
So I wouldn't enter trade on the breakout of the high as there is no clear breakout above the business zone. So another picture. So he wants to trade the breakout above the high 1. After price returns to range 1, is there a valid P setup here? Can high 2 and low 2 be defined as boundaries of P? Can we go long on the breakout of high 2? So higher close, lower close. First P shape, then there's a breakout. It is also above the business zone, and then there is a pullback. And the question is if the extension of the range can be traded to the upside. So if there's kind of an extension to the upside and to the downside. So we have. Patrick, willst du zuerst?
Mach ruhig.
So higher close, this is kind of the first breakout, and that's tradable because you have a close above the business zone, you have a close above the P shape. It's the first tradable setup is after this close in this case. All that before is kind of still in the balance. Most likely you had a deep profile here. I don't know what's the profile before. So we expect the range in here. So we need sustained breakout above here, above the business zones, and it's P setup. So the first breakout setup is here when high 2 is created. When you then go back, I mean, looks as we can think from the screenshot, it looks more like a downtrend, and in this case, either continuation or pullback. So I don't know what's the context for searching along on here. As soon as we break into the P shape from the upside, I think it's one of Patrick's setups, oder?
Mm-hmm. I would prefer to search short trades when I see that, but
where do you search for short trades?
Before the high 2.
Here.
Then, yeah, I would wait, and here perhaps I would trade a short trade.
Take a short trade over here, because we are still in between those two balances. Did not work out in this case, but it is what it is.
And I'm gonna break out to the high, but it doesn't go weiter. Continue. So I would prefer to search a short trade, even it's wrong. But.
And in this case, as long as we close back in here, yes, this breakout is tradable again. First, because we are above the business zone, and secondly, you have continued or confirmed the upward structure.
Yes.
so it is tradable. Although the preferred one is the short version, or the option to the downside. To the short side. So another one. In case, next picture. In case where the value area high with the upper boundary of the daily range is correct to define the business zone so that it extends beyond the day's limits and covers the value on the profile on another day as shown in the screenshot. Das über eine Tagesgrenze hinausgedeutet hat.
Ja, wenn es high ganz oben ist, sieht es manchmal komisch aus.
So that you connect the value area high with the value area of 2 days ago, in this case. So that the question that you connect this value area high with the naked value high of the past. Yes, that's valid. It is a valid creation. One option is to take this low volume area, but as you do, I also prefer it that way, and I think Search also does it most that way, to create it with a naked area in the past. I mean, it depends also on where the close is in here, but yeah, it seems valid. Seems valid. So then, Konstantin, I hope we answered all your questions. Otherwise, feel free to post them in the chat. We will go through at the end. Then there's a question about how to treat high risk to reward trades and how do you hold them long enough. I think that's a question for Patrick.
I don't know exactly what you mean.
Wenn du Trades mit hohem Chance-Risiko-Verhältnis hast, wie du damit umgehst, dass du die lange hältst.
For me, it's really easy, but and you have the risk reward, and you go into the trade. Wie gehe ich damit um?
It is the question is for Patrick kind of the same way as you asked the Dalai Lama what's the value of a human. It's not answerable for some individuals. Just I think it's difficult to define, but yeah.
Yes.
He just chases into the trades. He does not think about it. He just holds the trade. Kind of very simple answer, but
yes, you have your risk reward, and then you go in.
Yeah, it's just executing. I think if you do it a lot of times and very repetitive, you lose at some point the attachment to the individual trade or the money behind, and that way it gets more easy to hold those trades. So then, is it possible that Patrick records a video in German? Yeah, we can think about it. I think step by step, the first publication with Patrick was already. I think some publications will be made. Furthermore, we can think about also recording just in German language and then creating subtitles. We're still testing on what works best or also what you like best. But sure, we can do that in the future. The cash session for crude oil in Central European time, not just as a context.
We use the US session, 15 to 20 o'clock, but I don't know Central Europe, is it? Yeah, that's our time.
So in Sierra chart you have the time zone setting, but it's from 15 to
22.
22?
I think, or 21, I must have a look.
Something close before 10, Central European summertime, but it varies. So when you're on Central European time, as with winter and summertime, you need to take care because there's 1 week where the clock adjustment in the US and Europe is different, but it's so in winter time I think it's 15 to close to 22, and in summer it is 14 to to 20, 21 or close to 21. So it's not AM, PM, and in Germany we have 24 hours. Let me find the chat. Yeah, well, I still need to prepare the document, but it's 15 to 20:30, and so Central European time, depending, as I said, on some on winter time, but for now it is 15 to 20:30. So let me try to find the chat. Or let us first finish the questions. Why is Patrick telling that the volume profile for the cash session erstellt wird? I don't know. Do you depend on the recording? You say that the volume profile is only for the cash session, although the chart shows the session profile of the whole session. Do you mean the recording? What especially do you mean, Jose, Antonio, Bernal, Alonso? Is there a concrete example how the profile of the trade in the video is created? And we can go through the video and then we can answer that. I don't remember exactly what time in the video or recording you mean. So then Ferdinand. So you guys taught about what there to analyze, which goods, how the currencies perform in general, but there are some key aspects missing on how I can implement on upcoming news events in my trading. Should I try to predict what will happen based on the previous data?
Yeah, it's difficult because each data are different and the reaction is different. For me, I prefer to go out of the market because you can never say what they do with the data. It's
Question after that, should I trade during highly important news or after? I think we answered that now 2 times already. What do fundamental analysts attention most, or what do they focus most on?
Ja, momentan sind es ja die Zinsentscheidungen, wo wichtig sind, aber auch das verändert sich.
Und du für dich machst das ja nicht. Es geht ja um dich.
Ja,
also du musst die Frage beantworten, wie es um dich geht.
No, I go out, I don't use it.
And Patrick also does not analyze fundamentally.
No.
We have a person in the team doing that, but Patrick's not doing it for himself.
So I go out, not out a long time. I go out some minutes before, and if the reaction is not big, I go some minutes after the data's in the market again. But with big data, it's better for me.
So is it possible to have regular fundamental outlooks on the market? Yes, we thought about that, and yes, we can do that. The thing is just, if we tease and explain how we analyze or do fundamental analysis, there will be a lot of questions how it's done, and it's a whole own topic. It's not just you learn it in 3 hours and then you're done. For trading and implementing trading strategies, it's a lot of execution, but to learn good fundamental analyst, because it's very dynamic, it's not static and algorithmic, you take even more years. So the good fundamental analysts do this for years and then they get really good, and still then sometimes they make mistakes, and the time delay between you have a thesis or you have analysis and the analysis playing out is like very time delayed because you have weeks or months in between, so it's even more difficult to start. But yes, it is doable, and I mean we have the material because we also do it for ourselves. but we can think about this. We're just scared that we do it, and then people get addicted to this, because then you have like a teaser, but then you want to know more and more and more, and that's not really deliverable. But of course, for an example, if there's an interest, we can prepare one session, maybe 1 hour or 1.5 hours, where we share our current view on the markets in the upcoming weeks and months. How to influence your analysis for swing trades?
Later on.
No implementation except being out of the trade or in the trade. So, wait. So Eduardo had another question. I'll just read through it and try to summarize it. How important is the risking capital? So how much do you risk per trade and what's acceptable? The problem is that with the current capital, they can't even pay the costs for the software without taking care that he needs to test the strategy.
That's a problem because if you have a Trefferquote hit rate from 40-50%, you have sometimes losses of 20 times after another, and then more risk is really difficult.
A risk of 0.75% is very high. It is very high. I mean, you at least need a hit rate above 50%, otherwise you will have losing streaks and you will get big drawdowns. And either you don't have attachment to money, but it doesn't seem like for me in that question, and then it's going to be very difficult because you will have very hard drawdowns. And if you have the pressure to cover your expenses with the trades you make, then either you need to consider prop trading or save up or check for a cheaper software. But you need to implement and execute, and you start with kind of stress. You're starting with a stressing environment because you have the ambition to treat all the costs that you have from the beginning, and that's not realistic. When you move somewhere and you have somebody doing a job and bringing you or teaching you how the job is done, you also have a learning phase of 3 years. But during that time, in the beginning, you need to move there, you need to pay rent, you need to pay the apartment, you need to, most of the things from day one, it's not cash flow neutral. Most things in the beginning are an investment, and you need to take the pressure from you. Otherwise, I don't think that that will be sustainable. Yeah, there already was an answer. The free trading view option for the beginning is good. So start with the basics, try to reduce expenses, and then focus on the basics, and then step by step you can scale up. That's enough. I have no sound. The trade 4 explained by Patrick. We could go through that in the video and then answer it in the Discord. And the championship breakdowns. Just to put some numbers on swing position sizing, oversimplifying it for clarity. If you had 100,000 account, risking 0.25% per trade, let's say you have 55% win rate with 2-to-1 risk to reward ratio, then comparing risking the same percentage on swing trading as you would day trading, let's say you take one swing per week, this would make 9,052 trades per week, per year, versus the day trades. Yes, so the interest on interest in day trading is higher than on swing trading. And that way, when you know you only have one trade per week, of course, then you can increase the risk. Because you know the trade frequency will be way lower. But the first question that you ask, I thought it's about correlation to the margin, and most of the time there is no margin problem or requirement. So if you just compare swing trading to day trading, if you take the same risk in swing trading than in day trading, of course, day trading will be way more profitable if it's profitable because you have interest on interest. And that way you have more trades and you will have more profit because you risk more, you of course win a trade. But that way, then you just increase the risk. And if you have one trade and you're willing to you have a win rate of 55% and a risk reward of 1 to 2, then you say, okay, the max drawdown you want to create in swing trading, for example, is 10%, and then you like reverse engineer. So if you have 10%, you go to the equity curve simulator that we also shorten the course and check what the data, trade frequency, and risk per trade that you are maximum allowed to get the drawdown that you for yourself accepted. Hope that makes sense. But yes, for swing trading, the risk is way higher because if you have less trades, depending on the team size, but if you do it for your own and you only have one trade per week, then the risk is higher than in day trading. I have the answers to my questions. Thanks a lot. You're very welcome. Do you adapt your risk when competing in the World Trading Championship, such as higher risk per trade? We answered that a couple of times.
Yes, sure. In the competition, I took much more risk than in my own private accounts.
Yeah, because it is a competitive environment and you need to be on the top 3. What's the risk you usually take?
Normally 1 to 2%, sometimes a little bit more, but 2% it's a good number.
Yeah. Clarifying my Discord question regarding the trades. The 240, 15, and 5-minute charts show entire oil session. According to I observed the videos trade, for example, explained by Patrick. In the World Championship trade breakdowns, I don't understand when he says the profile is only for the cash session. According to what I see in the chart, the profile is for the whole session. Can you give an example on how he builds the profile on trade explained in the video?
Das war
Das, was mit Andrea aufgenommen ist.
Ja, Andrea mochte die Profiles. Kann
War die
sein.
bei Andrea aufgenommen?
Yeah,
Habt ihr das mit Deep Charts gemacht?
it was with Deep Chart an only example because when I made the championship trades, I didn't have the profiles. It's only CFDs. It was only.
I will go through the recording again.
Yeah.
I hadn't had the time yet to go through it, but then we will check with Andrea. But if they went through it with Deep Charts, maybe the settings in Deep Chart have been different. But we use 24-hour profiles for the weekly profiles, otherwise the cash session. Thank you again. You are welcome. Patrick, what's the risk you take in your personal account? 1 to 4% if it's possible to know.
Oh, it's under 1%, sometimes 0.2 to 0.5, sometimes even more or less.
Yeah, sometimes it's even below 0.1, 0.05 maybe, because you have higher trade frequency.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. You're welcome. Let us check one last time in the Discord. I think then that's it for now. There are no open questions. Then I think we will summarize this. We will repeat it maybe next week or a couple weeks later when we upload more videos and also the recordings of the seminar and the workshop here. And then hope you have a very good day. Enjoy your weekend.
Ciao.
Bye.